Hi everyone, welcome to Ibrox, welcome to the Rangers Reviews post-match debrief. It's Rangers 2, Livingston 1. A win, and just about that, Stevie Clifford here to talk through it with me. The headline, and this game will be remembered for a fourth straight league win under Danny Rule, and that is important and that merits talking about. But that wasn't a comfortable afternoon for Rangers at all, was it? They took the lead through Manny Fernandes, were pegged back soon after. A goal from Tete Yengi, who was a handful all afternoon, actually his first goal of the season for Livingston. Mohamed Diamande won it late on. A win and just a win, does that just about sum up for you, Stevie?
Yeah, sadly it does. We can't talk that up.
No.
We can't talk positively about the overall performance. We can about another victory and about the 3 points, absolutely, and we will. But the standard of that performance lacked so much. I said yesterday on the podcast that I really struggle where we create chances and where goals are coming from, and every time we watch this team it just reconfirms that every single time. I think it's a difficult watch. I think that there's players in there that are vastly underperforming, and I think there's some players that are simply in the wrong movie when it comes to Rangers and their moves in the summer. Now these things can change quite quickly, we know, but on viewing at the moment there's a few of them struggling.
Yeah, so you're right. It is a win, and that does matter because you take that over a good performance and no points. That's what Danny Rule needs at the moment. However, if you keep performing like that, you're not going to win. I don't think that really owes to Danny Rule whatsoever. To cut right to the chase, the issue for me today, and we're not going to talk so much about the game because you're right, it was a game that people have seen before where Rangers didn't really have control. And that suited Livingston more. Jack Butland makes a big save, one-on-one save at 1-1. Robbie Muirhead has a big save too late on to actually tie the game 2-2, but he puts it over the bar. For me, you sum it up right by talking about the players, because I'm looking at that again today, Stevie, and for the money spent in the summer, I'm saying, where's the spine? Where's the players to build around? Because it gets to a game like this when things are slightly nervy, and I think everyone's looking over their shoulder to who's going to make this a more comfortable afternoon, who is going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And at the moment, too many who were not bought for nothing this summer, put it that way, are not stepping up on what should be a routine win for Rangers on the basis of what they're spending comparatively to what Livingston are spending in any given summer.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about individuals, Nadim Bayrami came on today, and that's somebody who's been out in the shadows and made a vast difference. Looked energetic, looked lively, looked like he could add things. Now, we've already all decided that Nadim Bayrami is not good enough for Rangers Football Club based on his performances so far. The fact that he's come on today and shone like that shows, I think, a positive towards him, great attitude in that. So it's not a criticism of him, but it shows the level that we brought in this summer, Joshua. We can try and continue to talk it up, and we have done. I think we've been pretty fair. We've given Ant-Man, we've given Asgard plenty of opportunities. The both of them today did not take their opportunity. Ant-Man, if we talk about him for a minute, looks really nervous. He looks like a player unwilling to make runs. James Tavernier is not a vocal footballer, but the amount of times he was screaming at him to get in position and to make runs, and he seems to lack awareness of what's going on the pitch. There was times where Tav was maybe out of position, he doesn't drop back in, he doesn't follow runners, he almost kind of floats about. And I'm sorry, but Tello Asgard, that is a performance to me of somebody going through the motions, of somebody that's not sure of himself, somebody that's in the wrong movie. And I don't see it with him. I seen briefly 45 minutes against Dundee United where he was actively involved and he looked up for it. I don't see it today. The fact that he's got hooked at half-time again today tells you a lot, that we need more from these guys. Now, these are guys that cost the club £8 million, 4.5 and 3.5 if we're to be believed in what we're paying for them. That's not good enough at home to anyone, let alone at home to Livy. And that's not a criticism of Livy. Livy are bottom of the league though. And the guys have pretty much stunk it out today, and it's not good enough, Joshua. And we lack a lot in this team, but there is no goal threat in it. And if you don't score enough and you have a dodgy backline, which we do, which are very susceptible. I think you asked the question about the long balls, and we do.
It's not a good recipe.
It's not. That's the point I'm trying to make. There's not enough up top and there's not enough at the back, and we wonder why we're struggling.
So Rangers obviously scored that set-piece goal, and that's going to be the story of the week. that Scott Fry coming in as a set-piece coach, and it was a well-worked move. It's the third time that Rangers have opened to scoring from a set-piece under Danny Rule in the league, which shows the importance of them, but also shows, I think, how limited their attacking threat has been outside of that. And you're right to identify the fact that I'm even looking today at Joe Rothwell and Max Aarons again on the bench, Stevie, and thinking these were guys who usurped James Tavernier and Nico Raskin mere months ago after that opening day of the season. And it's a point that I feel it's a point we've made so much, so apologies for making it again. But I think recruitment this summer needed to give Rangers a new spine, and I feel like it's almost exacerbated issues instead of solving them. Oh, yeah. And that's what Danny Rule is working within. And if you're looking at chance creation today, so the actual final stats were, I think Rangers created 1.4 expected goals to Livingston's 1.5. Yeah, that's alarming. And obviously Danny Rule isn't, he's the head coach. You can't have a free pass, but the reason I'm exactly. This isn't new. This is a type of performance we've seen so much over so many years, and that chance creation is a worry. And I guess the talking point out of that, Stevie, is it's a long month, and you're right. These players do need to step up, because the January window isn't open for a wee bit of time. Rangers are expected to be fairly active in the January window, but it's not going to be anything close to the summer. And for a number of these individuals, Rule needs much more out of them.
Yeah, he does. I mean, we can continue to talk about January, and we try and talk it up as much as possible, but January is a difficult window. Yeah, January. And most of the deals don't come until the end of the month. So we've, in that first 12 days, got Aberdeen twice and Celtic. So Celtic away and Aberdeen home and then away. Things could be well without our grasp. So you're talking about, realistically, there's 10 league games before we can maybe start to fix. I wouldn't expect Rangers to go and have people ready to go in the 1st of January. They should, but it never really works out like that, and I'm not tying myself up in that hope. And what that means is that these players really need to start, and that involves your Antmans, your Rothwells, your Asgards, because we haven't had value for money. Rangers have spent, the guts of, by the club's own admission, £40 million on this first team, and we're worse than last year. And this may sound terrible, and I'm sorry if it does, folks. Like, genuinely, I can't come on a show and try and polish it and try and tell you it's all wonderful. It's not. We're going to have to limp through to January and hope, or beyond hope, that we somehow pick up the results we need to do. That's what we've done today. We've picked up a result. We picked up 3 points, and we'll absolutely grasp it. I think we were fortunate. I think there's a handball in the first half that very really could have been given. If it was us, I'm certainly asking for it. Jack Butland's one-on-one save, absolutely, which is a good big save, and to be fair to him, he's done really well there. Aside of that, I look up the other end and think, did we really overly create chances? Has there been big misses for our team? No, we've huffed and puffed a lot. We've not created a lot at all, which is why the XG is 1.4. Yeah. So I just think there's big questions. We don't go into the games coming up, Braga. You're looking at that thinking, oh dear. You're looking at next Sunday against Falkirk as well, and we just watched them spank Dundee United today 3-0 at United. There's no givens anymore the way we're playing, and every game's going to be a battle. So we need to strap ourselves in, and the only way we're going to get through it is if the players step up. Yeah. And they got a result today, which is great. And sometimes you can look at it the flip side and say these are games we didn't used to win, and that's fantastic. But we both know statistically and performance-wise that if you continue to do that on a game like today, 7 times out of 10 you'll win that game, but it's the other 3 that you don't, which always trip us up, and that's what we're heading to unless we pick it up.
Yeah, you can't concede that number of chances and only create that consistently, and I think there was actually space for Rangers to hit, and although Livingston sat back when they did press, there was you identified that there with Tavernier shouting at Antman. There was a few moments for them to maybe play in behind that. Bojan Miovski actually did help with that run for the goal. It was good. Yeah. But it wasn't a comfortable performance, and I guess that's the point that we come back to, and a point that we've made on a lot of different podcasts, is I think you just need in a Rangers team 3 or 4 or 5 players who can almost play regardless of the noise, stick to the plan, and then you make the player next to you comfortable. So I think what you saw with Nasser Jika today is he was nervous and that rubbed off on other players. Nico Raskin was losing the ball, that rubs off on other players.
They need, I'll continue to say this, Nico Raskin and Mohamed Dianande need somebody in the middle of them. They need it. Yeah. Raskin is loose on the ball, he always is, but Raskin tries to play progressive passes. Diamande tries to control and orchestrate, but when he's Diamande, you'll see him pointing so much in a football game because there's people not moving for him and making the runs. They need a 6 in between them. I'll continue to say that, or they need a 10 that can influence, make runs and do stuff in the game. When they haven't, let's be honest with you, as good a football as that, they're very bland together. They're very bland together. So we don't have the pace, we don't have the energy, we don't have that drive from them two in midfield. And then you're looking at Gassama being the one that you really want to create, and he didn't have a good game today. And then, where are you? Ant-Man, Asgard, not in it, miles off it. Danilo's good work today was all outside the box. He never touched the ball in the first half in our box. That's key to me. Majowski comes on and makes good runs. Sorry, pal. Majowski comes on and makes good runs, and he does, and he makes a difference. He makes Tav's wonderful pass, makes a goal, and he did do a lot of running off the shoulder. We don't find him. And there's too many times where a simple ball from one side of the pitch will go and we take 3 passes to get there. It's symptomatic of our slow build-up, players not trusting themselves, not trusting each other, and we look very bland. It's very workmanlike, it's very boring to watch because we're missing vital parts of the cog. It's like trying to turn a wheel and you don't have the right bits.
It's like 3 or 4 players to raise the levels, and the point is there probably is more. I'm sure there is more in.
There is players. There is more.
But you need. Within this context, you need a few to help bring it out in them and raise the level across the board.
But there might also be those players in there that we think can raise their levels that have decided within themselves, I don't quite fancy this. And I seen that today in Asgard and Ant-Man, and that's their challenge now to prove that's not the case, or they will continue to float along until we get to January and we inevitably go, this isn't working out, lads. So that's their challenge, because at the moment, people going away from the game today, I would hazard a guess, would probably side with me in thinking that these boys aren't quite up to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think someone like Nadim Barami, without being exceptional today, did more than enough to warrant going into Danny Rule's office next week and saying, by the way, I deserve an opportunity. If we just finish on maybe the defending and wider picture, I think the whole team defended poorly, and the goal that Rangers concede, it's really poor from Nasser Jika. I think Butland's a bit slow off his line, and that's not something that's unique to this game. But also, I thought from right at the top of the pitch, those nerves and those loose passes means that Livingston are jumping up and playing forward, and Rangers, as a team, maybe don't defend well. That's your centre-back options until January. I thought Manny Fernandes, to be fair to him in the second half, after that goal, which we shouldn't forget too, it was a brilliant header, looked a little bit more confident. I would argue that both of those centre-backs are centre-backs who need to play next to an experienced, confident centre-back, and Nasser Jika really just hasn't, since a good couple of opening performances here, hasn't done it whatsoever. Clinton Nsiala was on the bench for the first time this season. That is an area where Rangers are going to have to probably look at in January, depending on the severity of those injuries to Sousa and Cornelius, based on what we saw today.
Yeah, but where do you prioritise? Could you get by with your centre-backs? Not when they're giving up opportunities like that. I would agree. I think Nasser Jiga's fallen well down performance-wise. I thought he looked a bag of nerves at Hampden. I think that's carried on to today. I actually thought Manny Fernandes was okay. And I think if Manny Fernandes was next to an experienced campaigner like a John Souttar or somebody like that today, I think we would have been fine. But we've conceded that goal today too many times. And Butland's got a right to think defensively we'll deal with that.
Because it's 2v1.
Because it's 2v1. But at the same time, I think that he's got to be aware that sometimes you just have to come
be proactive.
And be proactive instead of reactive, absolutely. So do we need to look at centre-backs? Yes, we do. Do we need to look at a left-back? Yes, we do. Do we need to look at a centre midfielder? Absolutely. And then the front 3 positions, left, right, centre. How much do we actually need? That's the scary thing for me. Where do you prioritise what we actually need to do? So those are the big questions for Rangers and for this recruitment team in January. And by the way, they cannot afford to miss. What are we looking at the moment? Let's realistically look at this summer business. 12, 13 in, 1 being a hit. We needed 1 to be the miss. We go to January, and if we have we'll have money to spend, but it will not be millions, as in 20, 30, 40, the way it was in the summer. We need to make sure that these are wins. And we cannot afford, maybe get 3 players in. They have to be correct. And I think you just go with the spine. Centre, middle, 10. But in doing that, I think you also need to say, Tello, etc. If they don't pick up, I think you might need to get to January and look to trade these boys out and just say, look, it hasn't worked for us. January's massive. It's so hard to do it, yeah. It's, the thing with Asgard is if you try and move him on now, you still got the upsale of where he came from, his performances for Norway and stuff like that. If you stagnate him for 6 months and try and do it in the summer, you might lose that as well. So sometimes you just need to try and gamble. A lot of clubs might want him, but want him on loan. So, and I'm not just talking about him, I'm talking about him and highlighting him a day because I was really disappointed in his performance. But Rangers have so many questions. When it comes to your question about centre-back, yeah, you're right, yes, absolutely. But then do you send Giga back? Cornelius, if it's a long-term injury, might naturally go back anyway. So we're going to be shopping in that area, but we need a 6, we need a 10, we need probably another winger, we definitely need a forward. Where does it end and where does it stop? This is probably as big a mess from a position of strength, which it should have been in the summer, with a massive amount of money to spend and availability to go and get players. We've created this. And now we have to dig ourselves out, and I don't know how they do it easily. It's difficult.
It's difficult. There you go. We'll leave it there. Rangers 2, Livingston 1 in the Scottish Premiership. Danny Rule gets his 4th win in a row. Maybe that's not the full picture as we've discussed. We'll be back on Monday morning to talk about it further. Bye for now.